Shall we just go straight into it?
Yeah.
And pretend that nothing happened yesterday?
Oh, no, I think we need to talk about it.
You do, because it's content. It's content.
Daddy's
Okay.
brought you some content.
You talking to me?
Did you have a brain tumor for breakfast?
Then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me?
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like a clown. You know?
I'm Peter Binkman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Damn!
I'm kind of a big deal.
First rule of my club is do not talk about life.
Yeah, baby!
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
The clock is running again.
Tick tock.
Oh, imagine I'm going to put some reverb on that, I think. Some solid
that'd be
reverb.
good.
That
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
on for
do that.
10 whole minutes. Just
Yeah.
rolling on and then like a big pull stretch.
So are you going to tell him or am I?
Oh, you tell him. You tell him.
So we're going to talk about the great 90s John Cusack mini driver vehicle, Grosse Point Blank. But we've actually already talked about it for over an hour. But we had a technical issue, didn't we, Stephen? And didn't quite record us, it recorded somebody else. So we've come back the next day to re-record it. And
Yeah, the moment we realized that we hadn't actually done professional sound checks, i.e. listening to what is actually being... If we could actually pay a producer, we'd be fine.
we would.
We'd have a little booth. We'd be together. We'd have a pair of glasses on a cushion.
Yeah. I'd be wearing sunglasses indoors because that's how I'd roll.
How do you feel? I'm feeling uneasy, man. Well, look, Mark, I don't want to suggest anything that might be uncomfortable for you, but you might just consider the possibility that part of your problem, part of the thing that's making you so miserable is the angst over killing a lot of people. I got invited to my 10-year high school reunion. What am I going to say? Killed the president of Paraguay with a fork. How have you been?
Yeah, so here we are again.
Yes.
Day 2, and it does feel a bit strange kind of going into this because we either have to pretend that nothing happened yesterday and just roll with checking IMDb again and being surprised about all the wonderful things that we're going to say.
I think it's going to be better. I think it'll be tighter. I think because we know what we want to talk about. I think we'll find new and wonderful things to discuss. And
yeah,
who knows where we'll end up?
who knows? This could be interesting. Oh, yes. So here we go.
Well, with things like this, you've got to own it. Mistakes happen. It's
Exactly.
fact of life. It's
It
all
is.
part of the rich tapestry of life. It's
Definitely. You're absolutely right.
And unfortunately, you all know this was a really heartfelt moment at the end of the podcast yesterday, where I just said this is like my highlight of the week, and really look forward to it. I get to do it twice.
Get out of town. Visit with what's her name? Debbie. Go see some old friends. Have some punch. Don't kill anybody for a few days. See what it feels like. I'll give it a shot. Don't give it a shot. Don't shoot anything.
Yeah, Grosse Point Blank.
Yes.
And going into this is it's a great comedy. I was reluctant to watch it for many years, and I think it was only just when Andy said, watch it, and I did straight away, and
As ordered.
as ordered, and I couldn't put it down. It's like a good book.
Yeah.
It read well, and that's yeah.
Well, initially you were put off by the poster, weren't you?
Weirdly enough, and that was such a shallow thing, really. To when you look back and think, when you see a poster, it does do a lot to inform you about what it is that you're going to watch.
It does, and I would argue that it's not shallow. I would say, and I was actually thinking about this after we spoke. So it's probably a good thing we're doing it again.
Yeah,
Is everything? I think a lot of the '90s was image, wasn't it?
yes,
A lot of it was spectacle and really extravagant posters and
Yeah, instant images. Instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instant images. So a lot of the posters you got with this were I know, like we said yesterday, the poster is like John Cusack making love to the camera, and Minnie Driver looking at him like, "Oh, yeah, John Cusack." That's what the poster
Yeah.
looks like.
I mean,
it
he's
doesn't give any inkling of what the film is actually like.
Yeah, he's wearing all black because he's John Cusack. You know, when you're used to an actor and the way he dresses. Yeah, it did. Yes.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I didn't do that yesterday. But he's wearing all black, so he's wearing the John Cusack look. That's how he looks in most films. To be fair, you know, it suits him. And Minnie Driver's wearing the green sweater. She's peppy. She's 90s. She's very, you know, Empire Records look.
Yeah.
And it just looked like something that was not what it was.
No, absolutely. Like, the poster I saw first initially was John Cusack in front with Minnie Driver behind him, again looking at him like he's some sort of god figure, you know, and he's sort of pointing over his shoulder at him.
That's it.
And as discussed yesterday, you know, as we've discussed, that's not the dynamic between them both at all.
No, it's not.
You know,
these were just posing. This is just posing shots for publicity that don't fit. It looked like She's All That. It looked like, I mean, and when I look at the poster for She's All That, I think, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch it. The title, however, Grosse Point Blank, should have actually been more of an indicator that this wasn't he's not into you kind of a title. Yeah. You know, so image is more important than title, maybe.
Well, perhaps. Do you think they had to argue to get Grosse Point Blank as the title of the film? Because, you know, I would imagine that this poster was done by not done by the people who made the film, obviously.
Yeah.
It would have been, oh well, you know, this is a bit of an offbeat, weird black comedy, and you know, we don't trust people to have the intelligence to enjoy this film, so let's make it look like a romantic comedy and find a poster, but we can't call it Grosse Point Blank. We need to call it Kill a Man Falls in Love or something.
Or The Prom Redo.
Yeah, Prom Redux.
Prom, yes. You can never go home. You know.
I guess you can shop there.
But you can. But you can. Wow. Yes. And that is so relevant. You nailed it. You can never go home, but you can shop there.
Yeah.
Why was that not said in the film? That is a line. That is a freaking line.
I'm sorry, Stephen, but it is said in the film.
No way! No way! Did I miss that?
Hello, this is Dr. Oatman. If you'd like to leave a message, I will get back to you shortly.
Dr. Oatman, please pick up. It's Martin Blank. I'm standing where my living room was, and it's not here because my house is gone, and it's an Ultimart. You can never go home again, Oatman. But I guess you can shop there. Oh. Pick up! I know you're there, Oatman.
It's funny. Some things just don't stick unless I've watched it 3 or 4 times. So.
Well, like we've said, we discussed yesterday, and we're going to discuss again today. The script is brilliant. It's a really dense, well-written, clever script. So, like you said, it takes multiple watches to really take everything in this film.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail, and because we're talking about it, we're able to kind of reflect on our own personal viewing. So, so the story of Grosse Point Blank is pretty straightforward. I mean, it couldn't be more straightforward. John Cusack is a hitman.
Yep.
He has a very good assistant who just so happens to be Joan Cusack, his sister in real life. There's fun chemistry between the two. She's very distracting when he's trying to concentrate, and of course she's just opening the mail while he's lining up his sniper shots. And one of the things that come through the mail is an invitation to a reunion. A high school reunion. It's been 10 years since he left Grosse Point. And, he don't want to go back. But she wears him down. She wears him down. And then all of a sudden, it just so happens, the only coincidence in the film that kind of makes it kind of a bit of a throw-in is the fact that he does have a job nearby.
Yeah.
And it just so happens to be to Grosse Point. And when he does, everybody is surprised to see him. He shouldn't actually tell everybody what it is that he does for a living now, but he does, because everybody thinks he's joking. Because and of course he meets with Minnie Driver, who is a radio DJ host for local radio, which is a fantastic device in the film. You've got hitmen coming after John Cusack as well, because he killed was it a dog?
Yeah, so he was he was on a hit and he set off some explosives. What is a great little talk in the scene is when he's having that first conversation in the cafe with Dan Aykroyd. He's actually more upset that people would accuse him of killing a dog. I mean,
yes,
the hitman, they put more weight on the life of a dog than
of an animal.
Of an animal than people to kill it.
Because the dog is innocent, and there is that's the moral. It's the moral judgment that goes behind the killing.
Well, that's it, and how Martin Blanc is always trying to justify. Like he's always saying, if I show up at your door, chances are you did something to bring me there, and it's the way you can justify in his head to kill people. Yeah,
this is karma. This is what goes around comes around, and that's it. Yeah, but for a dog, that should never happen, and that's where it breaks his moral. It's just, like I said, it's the same with John Wick. It didn't matter how many people were killed, but as soon as somebody killed his dog, that was it.
Yeah,
the straw that broke the camel's back.
Indeed.
And that was John Wick was way after Grosse Point Blank, so I wonder if they pulled a little bit from that because of the pen and because of the...
They may have done. Because John Wick is a 90s action film, isn't it?
It is.
Just done in modern day, and it's like, oh, look at what Keanu Reeves can do now. But, so you'd never seen this film before?
No, I hadn't, no.
And after you watched it, how did you feel?
Really surprised, and like I say, it's one of those films that you can watch again and again because there's a lot of layers in there. It is well written, and as we mentioned yesterday, 90s films were a lot tighter. They were, people would say formulaic, but formulaic to a point where it actually pays attention to what you need to know as an audience. Every setup has a payoff, and every payoff is somewhere threaded as a setup, even in the most unusual way, like with the pen or with the radio station being used as a device to inform more characters of certain details.
Yeah.
It gives information to them instantly because it's a radio show.
Yeah. Even though it is like a normal, like you'd say, there's nothing massively different about it. A guy goes to his high school reunion, meets his old girlfriend, they rekindle, but along the way, everything is subverted. Nothing is easy. Nothing is...
Yeah. But it reads perfectly like a 3-act script. It has the Act 1, Act 2, it has that point of no return, and it reads just like Raymond G. French's book of screenwriting, which, as I said, back in the 90s, people read books to learn the craft, and they understood these terms and the needs for story to actually make sense, to not have loose threads that are meaningless, to not go on tangents like I'm doing right now about things and or setting something up and then just kind of disregarding it. The laws of filmmaking start with that script.
Yeah,
everything that happens is governed by that script, and films these days don't think as clearly about that structure, about that form, that function, and the presentation of a good storyline that has all those ebbs and flows and peaks and setups and payoffs.
Yeah. Point in fact, we watched a film last night. It was called 94,000 Feet, I think. It was like it's a horror film based on an aeroplane, as you can imagine. It was directed by the I forget his name now, the Japanese director who directed The Grudge. But it was more of an American film.
Yeah. Okay.
And it has a part in it where this goth girl who obviously has to like hold her death and is really, like a weird perversion. I was like, oh, that's a bit cliche. But this part happens where this goth girl gets in a chair like that and she gets her head down And then she puts the cover over, and the cover gets pulled, and she keeps her eyes closed, but she pulls the cover back over. It gets pulled again. She pulls the cover back over, and it gets yanked. And then you see her. She hasn't opened her eyes, but you see her point of view. She had opened her eyes, and there's the head of someone under the blanket. And as she pulls it up, there's no one there, but she doesn't see that. Then she pulls the blanket out over, and she puts it back over, and I was like, wow, it was actually quite scary.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the next scene, they're trying to work out what's happened to this guy who died, and the goth girl's there, and then that was it. It was like there's no point for that scene.
No point.
It was genuinely scary, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
It was just there to try and put a bit of a cheap scare in there, and then it had no reflection on the rest of the story.
That's it. And there's no reference to it, that she doesn't bring it up. She's not concerned by the event at all. I can imagine in that next scene, she'd probably just be rolling as if it's just that, nothing happened. It didn't matter.
Yeah, nothing happened. Bear in mind, she was trying to get some sleep, so you imagine she's tired, but no, nothing like that. She's back to normal and just back in with the crowd trying to figure out what happened to this guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it annoyed me.
It is, and that is why I struggle so much with film, because we've grown up with this high caliber of skill, and it all comes from knowing your subject, knowing the story, knowing what goes in, what doesn't go in, what's and putting cheap thrills into a story. I mean, there's nothing in this film that doesn't have a purpose or a reason.
No, absolutely not. It's really, really well written. It's a great script.
Even if it's improvised, it is in service. The improvisation is in service to the actual characterization, and the whole idea in that conversation in the car, like you said, with John Cusack and his friend, who is he's like 10 years.
10 years, man. 10 years. 10 years. 10 years! 10 years!
And you can see in John Cusack's face, he jumps and looks at him. But
that's it.
Because they're both great actors, they just roll with it and go into it. You know what I mean? He's like, I freaked out, I joined the army, I'm a professional killer. And then obviously his friend doesn't believe him, because no one believes him until pretty much towards the end.
But because the nature of the conversation is hyped, it's hyped. So anything that he says is in service to that hype. It's in service to that mood.
But
and
there's a part in it where and I do believe it's a genuine laugh, where he goes, I joined the army, I went to work for the CIA, I'm a professional killer, and then he says, well, oh, do you get dental with that? He's like, no. And then they both start laughing, and the scene sort of ends there. But there's an overdub that comes over. It's like, oh, did you go visit your house? He went, yeah, it's a Walmart. He goes, yeah, I secured the deal on it. It's like, oh, thanks for catching on my childhood. That's overdubbed. But I think that scene's really improvised. And at the end of it, when they're just laughing, it was like a genuine laugh. They kept in the film because it just worked. It's great.
Yeah, and of course, Steve Pink is one of the screenwriters as well. Yeah. So he and John Cusack were both credited as screenwriters. So they were heavily involved in the story, and they knew what to bring into those improvisations. They knew how to enhance it, to work on it.
This isn't saying the writers, because they improvised and because they had a bit of weight at the time, saying we want to have writing credits as well because we improvised bits, or did they genuinely have a take on the script?
Well, John Cusack was a producer as well, right? I think.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a part of those writing sessions. He probably would have been.
I would say so. I'm not trying to be cynical, but
but I think we need to assume the best in this case, because it worked. Yeah, it was a big surprise, but not surprised in the way that because it comes out of the 90s, you kind of knew it was going to be something.
Yeah,
it was going to have something.
Quintessential 90s film, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. I don't think it could have been made at any other time.
Yeah, I mean, they tried with War Inc., which was the kind of like a soft follow-up of the actual idea of him being a hitman, and still had Joan Cusack in it, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't a sequel, but it didn't have the je ne sais quoi.
But when you look at the caliber of films that came out in '97, though,
Go through that list.
Good Will Hunting,
amazing
film. Gattaca, which I really like. LA Confidential.
Oh, now do you know what that is? A film that's worth talking about. I love that film.
We watched that not too long ago again, actually.
Yeah, me too.
The Fifth Element. which we watched not that long ago when I wasn't as fussed on that. Titanic, yeah, okay.
As good as it gets.
Donnie Brasco, Boogie Nights, Jackie Brown, Amistad, Contact,
Yes.
Chasing Amy, Men in Black, Starship Troopers, The Game, Grosse Point Blank, Face Off, The Rainmaker, Copland, Air Force One,
Yeah.
Breakdown. Do you remember Breakdown with
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell. That's a great film.
That is a great, and you know what? That could have just been Breakdown. Could have just been such a throwaway movie, but it had the right cast. I mean, you had Kurt Russell, you had Catherine Quinlan, and you had one of my favorites, J.T. Walsh, in his final roles.
Yeah.
And that you know, you can't go wrong with 97.
It's a brilliant year for film, isn't it?
I absolutely love watching the Oscars that year as well because it was an exciting year for cinema.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think was it Alien Resurrection? That might have been 98 actually. Let's not dwell on that one. But but yeah, but the 90s as a whole, nobody went in making a movie unless it was really worth doing because of course it was pre-digital.
It was. Do you think it has something to do with Tarantino coming on the scene? And obviously, so you can say what you like about what you want about Tarantino, but his scripts are tight. He's a great script. He's a great storyteller, scriptwriter. And all of a sudden, Reservoir Dogs comes out and Pulp Fiction is really tight, funny, but great, clever scripts. And it's sort of
True Romance as well, because that was tied with that, and Leon.
So all of a sudden, everyone had to really up the game, It was like, we've got to write these tight scripts here,
But that's it. But it's kind of like it was like the new wave where with Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and the like, Barry Levinson. That generation spurred off a whole new generation of indie filmmakers. And of course, back through the 80s, things became more studio-based. Everything was tightened. And you could say that Heaven's Gate was the reason why New Wave kind of ended and the studios kind of muscled in because they didn't want to have a movie failure like Heaven's Gate again.
Yeah.
But then the 90s came, and of course, and then that new band of indie filmmakers. And the fact that you could do it, you could be Quentin Tarantino, and you could make such a simple movie like Reservoir Dogs, but you've got to. But that's why screenwriting books were God back in the 90s. Everybody went through them. You had Robert McKee's story, which I've got on the shelf over there. You had Raymond G. French, and you had these books, these resources, and people were studies of the film technique and of film theory. It was heavy. Everybody was drenched in that language. Yeah. But of course, once the digital age came along, people felt as though they could just do anything they wanted to because they can just film it. And so films have been made cheaper. Actors, of course, are still being paid extraordinary amounts for what it is they do, but they are the pull, they are the gravity that makes the profit go through the roof, so they can ask for whatever they want. But it has changed the caliber because people aren't as precious about what they film. And you can argue for an artist like David Lynch, who doesn't really like to have like a screenplay that is just structure, tell a story from beginning to end, and make it all stick together like a perfect tapestry. He is more the art filmmaker who loves digital because you're free to just spread your wings and do interesting stuff.
Now, if you're playing the movie on a telephone, you will never in a trillion years experience the film. You'll think you have experienced it, but you'll be cheated. It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
We take a brief time out.
Let's just think about how good the films were in the 90s.
Just thinking about it. It's great for radio. And maybe we're turning a point now. Maybe we're kind of like climbing out of that nicely.
Well, I think how everyone's sort of turned their back on Marvel, even though the films Marvel have been putting out have not been good at all, but I think people just had enough of spectacle. Like that last Avengers film, it was you couldn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know, like pretty much every A-list star you can think of, all fighting all at the same time. It was huge. And you can't go more than that.
Yeah. And it's that's why you got to stop and stop doing it and change, change your underwear for heaven's sakes and stop wearing all these Superman costumes. Because I think I was done with superhero films near enough when we were halfway through our first run of Frame by Frame.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, things like Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy kept me on the surface, kind of dipping in, but nothing else was. And of course, John Cusack just wasn't in these movies.
And if he had been, there would have been a great line like,
Where have you been for 10 years?
I freaked out. I joined the army. I'm a professional killer.
Oh, do you have to do postgraduate work for that, or can you jump right in?
Yeah, we've actually gone on a few tangents. I think because we talked about it yesterday, we're kind of like forgetting that we need to kind of cover everything that we talked about, and I think we're doing all right.
We're doing all right.
Yeah,
it's all good. It's all good.
Is it the job? Is it getting to you?
This is me breathing.
So let's talk about this good writing. I mean, we talked about it yesterday about the bully at the prom who you talked about subverting all the expectations, and this was it. This was one of those moments for me when the bully comes up to him and
so what we sort of figured out, didn't we?
Yeah.
While talking about it yesterday, is nobody has the upper hand on Martin Blank.
No.
This. Yeah, his psychiatrist is terrified of him.
Martin, I'm emotionally involved with you.
How are you emotionally involved with me?
I'm afraid of you.
You're afraid of me.
And that constitutes an emotional involvement, and it would be unethical for me to work with you under those circumstances.
Don't you think maybe you're just upset because I told you what I do for a living and you got upset and you're letting it interfere with our dynamic?
Whoa. Martin, you didn't tell me what you did for a living.
Yes, I did.
You didn't tell me what you did for a living for 4 sessions. Then you told me. And I said, I don't want to work with you. And yet you come back every week at the same time. That's a difficulty for me. On top of that, if you've committed a crime or if you're thinking about committing a crime, I have to tell the authorities.
I know the law, okay? But I don't want to be withholding. I'm very serious about this process. And I know where you live.
Oh, now see, that wasn't a nice thing to say. That wasn't designed to make me feel good. That's a kind of a not too subtle intimidation, and I get filled with anxiety when you talk about something like that.
Come on. I was just kidding, all right? The thought never crossed my mind.
You did think of it, Martin. You thought of it, and then you said it. And now I'm left with the aftermath of that, thinking I gotta be creative in a really interesting way now, or Martin's gonna blow my brains out.
But it's almost as if he's the therapist, that John Cusack the therapist, and he's the patient because of the fear dynamic.
It's a sort of like John Cusack kind of knows what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
And he's just going there because he feels there's something not right. He's not getting the same thing out of being a hitman anymore, but he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just, it obviously. But what we figured out yesterday is nobody has a upper hand on him.
No.
No one is his equal, apart from Minnie Driver's character.
You're right. And it's amazing. And because you do feel safe with Martin Blank and throughout the film, because, of course, because it's John Cusack, but at the same time, he's not a threat to... he's a threat to everybody, but he's not. He's harmless, but Minnie Driver, she's got a hold on him, and that's Yeah,
and it turns out the thing that was wrong is, we find out when he goes to Grosse Point to see, to the high school reunion, and he's committed. He's not going to go to his high school reunion, but he just sort of drifts by, doesn't he? He thought, we'll go in, and then he sees his ex-girlfriend. He ends up on the radio.
Yes.
And he sees his ex-school. He sees one of his old teachers, and all of a sudden, I think things start to fall in place. And it's like, this is what I missed, because 10 years ago I freaked out.
Yes.
I left his girlfriend waiting for him on prom night.
Yes.
He never went to pick her up. He joined the army. He got cruised by the CA and ended up becoming a hitman for 10 years.
That's it.
And by going there, I was realising actually he doesn't want that life. Getting to the actual high school reunion, it all sorts of falling places. Actually, this is where he wants to be. He wants to be back. He wants to actually have a normal life, and he wants to get away from that.
That's it. Yeah. He wants to live the legitimate life. I mean, there's a lot of references to Godfather in this. That need to separate. Not sitting in front of doors. The cafe scene with Dan Aykroyd, all these little things, kind of like wanting to. I'm surprised that they didn't throw. They could have thrown so many lines in there from The Godfather. So I'm just like Al Pacino in The Godfather. I mean, they could have just done the perfect link up with that, and that Diane Keaton was the only person in that movie who had a hold on Michael Corleone. Yeah. It's funny, the duality and the references are all there, and that's why this works so well. But you also mentioned yesterday, that was very important, the game of chess throughout.
Yes. Yeah. So, like I say, he's got the upper hand on everybody, but when he's talking with Debbie, when he drives character, it's like a game of chess. They're both each other's equal.
Yes.
And she challenges him more than anyone else. And like that discussion that we mentioned yesterday about she says, so was there a Mrs. Mysterio in your life?
So, come on, spill. What you been doing the last 10 years? Well, you must have had worthwhile experiences you want to tell me about.
Bad experiences.
You met people?
Bad people.
You're pathetic.
When they're in the bar after being on the radio.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, but I do have a cat. She goes, that's not the same. Well, you don't know my cat. It's very demanding. You don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Well, I respect its privacy. And there's that game of chess between them all the time. They're always trying to trip each other up, and it's brilliant. It's really good.
It's kind of like us, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, storytelling feeds to the very core of childhood. And the game of chess, if you grow up, eventually you learn to play chess. And you understand the to and fro of strategy and logic. Yeah. And then, of course, the rest of the story is a puzzle. Pieces slotting in together. If the picture doesn't look right, change it. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. So it's amazing how the elements of this story are so intrinsically embedded in our psyche as people.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
That's the psychological play of this entire movie.
Mention about how it has some like really dark moments. So when he goes to visit his house for the first time, and he realizes it's not there anymore.
Yes,
it's a shop. It's that mini mart, and we've that really good part where you can hear "Live and Let Die" by Guns N' Roses. But as he walks into the shop, it turns into the Wings part.
Here's your receipt. Thanks.
That's so cool, that part.
That is, yeah.
And he's obviously, it's like quite a traumatic thing for him. He's not been home for 10 years. He's clearly not seen his parents for 10 years. What's happened? Because his family home's not anywhere anyway. He finds out his mum's in a home
institute,
an institute, and so he tries to talk to her, and she sort of recognizes him, but doesn't quite recognize him.
Yeah,
and then she's like, and that line that she says to him, "Oh, you're handsome. What's your name?" It's such a dark, horrible thing where it's like his mum recognized him and then doesn't, and she's really confused, and then all of a sudden that lucidity goes, and then she just looks at him, doesn't have a clue who he is.
Yeah.
She's like, "I'm Martin." And she's like, Martin. And she starts singing while to take him away. The next scene is him walking up with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. He opens it and he just pours it on a grave.
That's
His dad's grave. And like we said yesterday, that's all you need to know about his backstory. Why he left. He's clearly come from, his dad was probably drunk and probably maybe beat him or something. And he was in this awful situation that nobody knew about, and he had to get away from it. And you learn everything you need to know just in that one moment of him just pouring a bottle of whiskey onto the ground and throwing it out.
And that proves there was no reconciliation between the two. Once a drunk, always a drunk, and that's it's the economy of storytelling. He could have told you he was beaten. He could have told you that, but you get that from that scene because you are filling in the blanks.
Yeah. And like I say, if that was made now, the chances are there'd be a close-up on his face, and then there'd be a flashback, a black and white flashback of this drunk maniac running around a house and slapping his kid and screaming at his mom. And but you don't need it.
No,
you don't need it.
It's the Halloween remake where you had to see Michael Myers being living in a house full of trauma,
which incidentally takes everything that's scary out of Mike Myers out of
Yeah.
it. He's not scary anymore.
Yeah.
He's an abused kid who's now wants to murder people because he was abused.
That's it.
It's far scarier that him not having a backstory. He's just evil.
Because you just don't know where it comes from.
Exactly.
And
That's way scarier.
And of course, like I said, that the childhood need to fill that puzzle piece and see the whole picture. What do you do when you finish a jigsaw puzzle? You're chilled. You're happy, complete. Yeah. You feel, yes. But the idea of life to never be answered, to actually for it to never have closure, is exactly why we feel unease when we go to the cinema to watch something like this, because we don't know how dark and sinister that family dynamic was. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And of course, none of his friends knew, because friends never talk about that kind of stuff. You know, it's all.
No, well, you can tell because everyone's just so shocked. He just disappeared.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, so that's like 10 years, that scene.
Exactly.
It's so brilliant because he goes back to see Minnie Driver and she can't believe that she's actually looking at him. And instead of actually, the typical sort of DJ, instead of like, oh my God, I can't believe it, what happened? She puts him on the spot, literally on the spot, on a microphone, and now he's in the worst situation of his life because he can't be exposed. He's a
low
hitman.
profile.
He's on the radio, and there's two hitmen outside listening to it. Who wants to ring in, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, does the radio have a big foghorn outside its door so everybody who's walking past can actually hear the radio station? And that's I wonder how accurate that is, or if that was one of those things where they thought, well, we need all these characters to know what's being said on this radio, so why not have the bullhorn?
No, I would definitely imagine that, like in small towns, like in certain radio stations, it's played outside as well as through the radio waves as well. I can imagine that would be a thing. Yeah.
Oh, they won't get away with it here. It'll be like. There'll be a Facebook group and everything. That noise outside my house.
Oh, yeah. I know that radio station's been there for 80 years, and I only moved in 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to write a petition to get it removed because it's infringing my rights.
Now let's talk about the martial arts and the action.
Yeah, well, so the guy, John Cusack was being trained by a guy called Benny R. Diaz, I think his second name is, but he's called Benny the Jet. And he goes back to Hong Kong cinema. He was in Wheels and Meals, Jackie Chan film. He was in Dragons Forever, another Jackie Chan film. He's like a sort of classic. He was a world champion kickboxer. I don't think he was ever beaten. And he has like a record for how many people he's knocked out and that. So quickly, it's like absolute badass, this guy. But he trained John Cusack, and he did a lot of stunts and fight choreography in Hollywood. I think he still does to this day. And and John Cusack clearly went, look, I've got a part for you in this film. I know you're doing choreography for it. I think you should be in it. And there's a great fight scene in it where so this Benny's character is obviously after him. He's waiting to get the right moment, and
he's the assassin.
He's the assassin while he's at the high school reunion. He just walks into the corridor and they have this fight, and it's a really good fight. It's well choreographed, and it's good. It's good.
And it ends with the John Wick pen.
It ends with the John Wick pen. I would argue ends with the Grosse Point Blank pen.
Yes, you're right. And then John Wick stole it.
Bastard.
But the pen is mightier than the sword. Yeah, it's but that's when, of course,
Well, when we talk about how good the script is, what it reminded me of is when we did our Evil Dead scripts last week, and what made me think about it is Stephen we needed somebody
to track a vehicle. We needed to track a vehicle,
which then made him think, well, what I'll do is I'll make sure there's an email sent that the details are on, and made you go back in the story and put that in.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it made me think of the pen bit, but there's a part where Martin Blanc borrows a pen off somebody.
Oh, he's going to say, I have my card.
Oh, yeah.
No, in fact, I'm not going to give you a card. You have a pen because it's like really special. You know.
And everybody at the high school reunion is just trying to brag of who they are. When they
exactly.
How much they've achieved and all that.
Which is a typical 90s thing. Typical 90s thing. It really is. Yeah.
So when he's having this fight with the hitman, he kills the guy with a pen.
That's it.
And that's when Minnie Driver walks in and sees him and clearly freaks out. And that's the one bit where they realise, actually, all the way through the film, when you keep on saying you're a hitman and we all think you're joking, holy shit, he is.
You've been telling the truth, and that's that.
But then afterwards, he walks back through the party, and he's got a, they just disposed of the body, hadn't he, and just put it in this fire furnace, and he gets his mate to help him.
But his mate is so in there, ready to just. He just like he doesn't care. Which
he thanks that guy for his pen. He goes, "Oh, thanks for the pen."
Yeah, exactly. Saved his life.
But what we forgot to talk about, you tried to set it up, we forgot to talk about it. Where there's the bully from the school.
Yeah.
Really not changed at all. He talks to everyone the same way. In fact, the first time he sees Martin Blank, he says, "Oh, hi, Bobby." They call him Bobby Beamer, don't they?
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, hi, Bobby." He goes, "I'm drawing a complete blank."
Yes.
That must be what he said to him in school. And this guy, his attitude, he's not grown up. School was his best time of his life.
Yeah, and he's back there. He's back there, and he owns it. He thinks he owns it, but
he owns it. So he's in the they run into each other, Martin Blank and this old high school bully, and he'll basically goes. He says about Debbie. He's like, "Oh, Debbie, you still hitting that shit?" And he tries, he's clearly like fired up with him. Then John Cusack goes straight into his face and just goes,
Hey, Bob.
Debbie Newberry, huh? You gonna hit that shit again?
Fine, Bob. How are you?
Real smart. Come on. Let's just smart shower with my foot up your ass.
Do you really believe that there's some stored up conflict that exists between us? There is no us. We don't exist. So who do you want to hit, man? It's not me. What do you want to do here, man? I don't know what that is.
These are my words.
It's a poem? See, that's the problem. Express yourself, Bob. Go for it.
When I feel quiet. When I feel blue.
You know, I think that is terrific. What you have right there. Really, I like that a lot. I wouldn't sell the dealership or anything, but I'm telling you, it's intense.
There's more.
Okay. What? Do you want to just skip to the end?
To the very end. For a while.
That's good, man.
For a while.
That's excellent.
You want to do some blow?
No, I don't.
It's an amazing scene. It's really good.
It's really
I like
good,
Mini Driver, Debbie's Mini Driver's cover. Deb sees it, and she doesn't say a thing. And this is what I love about this film. Not everything has to be said all the goddamn time. She just sees it and she smiles and she walks away.
And that's it.
And that's all you need.
That's it.
It says everything you need. She sees that he's grown. There's something different. Maybe, you can fill in the blanks yourself, or maybe she says, actually,
fill in the blanks.
These 10 years apart might have been good for us.
Yeah.
If we'd stayed together 10 years ago, it wouldn't have worked out because we were different people. But now we've grown, we've got life experience.
Yes. Different life. Yeah.
It's so good. And at the moment with the baby is just so goddamn good, where Under Pressure's playing in the background, you just passed him the baby.
Yeah.
And he's just staring at the baby, and you could just see him switch. You could see him change.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing because they both got the same expression, looking at each other. The baby looking at him and Martin Blank looking at the baby. Because they both got the bottles open, they're both in it, and they're both trying to make each other out. You can see it. But you can see it's like everything in his life is changing in that moment.
It's a 2001 baby. It's that whole
2001 baby.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because because John Cusack has that look as well. That kind of like a lost child look. Sometimes he has that. It's a family trait. They have that kind of look. That sometimes they have a very baby-like resting face.
Yeah.
And so it changed him. And then from that moment on, like you say, he all of a sudden he forgot about being on guard, checking for doors. He started to relax. He started to realize that life is here for him. It's amazing. It's very good.
Very, very good. It's a very good film. People should definitely watch this film. But obviously, and then the hitman comes in, Benny the Jet, and he ends up killing him, and that's when Debbie sees it. and walks in with his best mate, and he just killed him. And then the ongoing motif is like, it's not me. It's not me. You know,
and it isn't. In that moment, it legitimately wanted to kind of get out of it. He wanted it to end, and unfortunately, you know, as soon as I want out, they pull me back in, kind of a moment, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like he can't get away from it. So then Debbie obviously runs away crying, and he pulls the sheet down. He gets his mate to help wrap him up, and he has that great line: 1,000 innocent people get killed every day, but a millionaire's pet gets detonated, and you're marked for life. The only reason that guy came from is because he killed that millionaire's dog.
It's a hilarious thing.
He goes back to Debbie's house, and Debbie's like, he's like, look at it. She's like saying to him, look, if you hadn't killed him, would he have killed you? And he's like, yeah. And he's trying to justify what he's doing. She's like, no, it's not right. You don't kill people. Why didn't you get this in your head? You don't kill people. And he's trying to argue his point. Look, we're talking semantics. You know, what is this? What is that? What is life? You know, he's like, no, you don't kill people. You don't get to have me. Just leave me alone. So he goes back to his apartment, and that's when he gets the pack thinking, right, well, I'll do this last hit, and then I'm done with this life. And it turns out it's Debbie's dad that he's being hired to kill.
Checkmate.
And he's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
He even says, which is a great callback, before he opens that packet to see who's been hired to kill, he goes, well, you're a good-looking fella. What's your name? And that's what his mum said to him when she didn't know who he was. And him saying it to that package is like, then who am I? He doesn't know who he is.
No, that's it.
Brilliant writing. It's a brilliant film.
You see, there is depth there, right in that moment. Yeah.
That's when just before that moment, that's when he rings his receptionist, isn't it, John Cusack?
Yeah.
Basically, who's so, because it's so funny. Let's see, a film to have this many levels, be this dark, but also be so funny. It's
so funny.
Fundamentally, and she's pouring gas, petrol over the office because they're burning it up, obviously.
Hello? Are we out of business yet?
I'm taking down the office now.
Good. I'll put things right and then I'll find you.
Why?
It's not like that, Marcella. Look under your desk. I left a little something for you. All the way under.
You shouldn't have.
That's profit sharing. You deserve it.
All right!
Yes!
But even when he says, look under the desk, she still thinks it's going to be an explosive device.
Yeah.
Because what have I done? What did I do?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like
because you don't know, in her head, she might be thinking,
yeah.
Well, he's clearly not doing this anymore. Does he have to erase all traces of him ever being a hitman?
Yeah.
That could be me.
But in a way,
him,
in a way, she was the reason why this whole thing happened. So that gift to her was, thank you for pushing that, that reunion back in his head. Thanks for, there's, and there's also layers in real life because they are brother and sister in real life, and they are both so very different. They both have very different careers. John Cusack is always kind of John Cusack in a way, and we love him for that. Joan Cusack, a chameleon. She can be scary. She can be amazingly funny. She can do anything. She's always good. She's a bankable. I'd put her in everything I ever make. Even CA03. She'd been great. She wouldn't even need to wear the costume. She'd just be Joan Cusack.
Yeah.
And you can be terrified. She's fantastic. I'd love to have them around for dinner.
Oh, God, yeah.
Imagine that.
I love that.
Because I've got two celebrity couples who I would love to have around for dinner. I only have two, or maybe three. It's Peter Skarsgård and Maggie Gyllenhaal. For some reason, I think they are just adorable. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, just for the hell of that. Yep.
Yeah,
and the Cusacks. In fact, bring the whole family. I want to meet them. I want to meet them. It's amazing.
I'm going to sort it out for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, after that Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise thing, I wanted to bring that.
You put an end to that, didn't you? You would show up about the piano and Eyes Wide Shut, and they're just like, look, that's it, we're splitting up. I'm going to go join a cult.
Well, that was Nicole Kidman saying that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and somebody was like, not before me, you know.
Oh no, yeah. He's trying to have the upper hand, which is very difficult because he's so short.
Yep.
So anyway, we've said so much more in this episode.
We have, yeah. Well, we should just say, so at this point,
yeah,
it now turns into a race against time to try and save his Debbie's dad.
Yeah, and of course it's the Act 3.
It's the Act 3, so it's a shoot up. It turns into an action film, but it's still funny because obviously he's trying to convince her while he's killing all these hitmen why they should actually, she should give him a second chance.
Yes,
and this is why they should work, you know. But all the time he's fighting people. He's fighting Dan Aykroyd, you know, and.
But it's at the same time, it's simultaneous. They're not just having the shootout, having the fight, you know, not having the conversation until afterwards. They're having it all at the same time, and that's why that's why it keeps with the idea of that scene between Joan and John when he's trying to do the hit at the beginning and she's talking to him. It's funny and it's dark. It's action and it's dark.
Yeah,
and it's the same right to the end. Perfect.
Yeah. And it's great because he really takes charge of because this is his thing.
This is his domain. The house is his. Yeah.
This is mine. I know what I'm doing here. So even though he's like saying, "Look, I know how we can make this work. Just go there now. Get in this room now.
In the bathtub."
Get in the bathtub. Right, I'll be back. You know. And when he gives her that gun and tells her how to, and she puts the gun in his face, and he just moves it gently away from him. He's like, "We can make this work." You know what? And I love how he kills Dan Aykroyd when it's like saying, "Are there going to be meetings at this place?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, no meetings." And they're shooting over they're shooting over the kitchen table.
Yes.
And he said, "All right, okay, shall we shake on it?" And obviously Dan Aykroyd loads his gun. Sure, let's shake on it. Knowing they're both going to kill, he just gets the TV and just rams it over his head.
Perfect.
Which is a comedy death. If you think about
it's comedy death, but it's, you know, Dan Aykroyd wouldn't have had it any other way. You don't get to shoot Dan Aykroyd in a point blank way. No. You don't. No. You gotta hit him with the TV.
Point blank, just got it.
Yeah, point blank.
His name's Martin Blank. They live at Grosse Point, but he kills people at point blank range. Wow.
It's so many layers.
So many layers.
Grosse Point. Detestable.
We never mentioned it yesterday, but one of my favourite lines to end a film ever is what Debbie says. It's a monologue, you know, when they're in the car driving away and they're smiling.
Yes, yeah.
Hopefully they go into a nice life and all that kind of stuff. She says, "Some people say forgive and forget. I don't know. I say forget about forgiving and just accept." Oh.
Yeah.
What a line. And get the hell out of town. And the car just drives off into the distance.
That's it. Get out of town.
Film.
Yes.
It's such a good film. Oh, I just got to be... Right, so I listened to a podcast called Films to be Buried With.
Yes.
He asks famous people the same questions, and they have different answers. It's brilliant. I love it. Brett Goldstein was in it. It was in, you know...
Yeah, kind of like how much is a pint of milk for Empire? That kind of...
Yeah, exactly. And one of them is... What's the film you have or could watch the most? And I'd have to, if I was ever asked that question, it'd be Grosse Point Blank. Because it never fails. It's funny, it's dark, it's moving, it's really well written, it's clever, it's everything I would want out of
it's
a film.
Simple and complicated. It's
absolutely,
No, I mean, I mean, how many times have we the films that you've watched the most? They're often the most simple storyline, but they have the most layers. It's like peeling back an onion every time, and that's why they're so good. That's why these films are memorable. What a decade!
What a decade! What a decade! Highly recommend everyone watch it. Now
we've done a good job, Andy. I think I was a little bit worried that we were going to struggle because of all the callbacks from yesterday, but I think we hit the nail on the head.
We've done good.
Yes, we I'm proud of this. I'm proud that we're still doing this podcast, man. It's fantastic.
Like we said yesterday, we're going to do it till we're in our 80s.
That's it. Yeah, we might even be able to perfect the opening. We might even be able to have some genius moments in the middle. But you know what, Andy? We're still gonna fuck up the ending.
Oh yeah, we'll never get the ending right, but that's okay.
Yeah, the ending's gonna be terrible, and here we are.
Here we are at the ending.
Okay.
Okay, well, I suppose, yeah, we should end it, really. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean? What do you mean end it?
Just, just end it. Like, you've got to end the podcast, haven't you? Just end it.
Just end. Okay. Okay. Right. So, Andy.
I thought you were doing a Joe Pesci Goodfellas thing.
What do you mean? What do you mean end it? What do you mean? You think ended? I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to be like Joan Cusack, who's just been told that there's a wad of money underneath her desk. So. Yes. So let's burn this house down, Andy. Let's end it. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for coming. And it's a thrill and a joy to see you again 2 days in a row.
Likewise. Yeah, likewise. Brilliant.
And see you next week, everybody. This has been Frame by Frame. I have been Stephen Radford, and you have been...
Andy Lewin. Bye, everyone. Yay. Even if you do the best ending, I will sabotage it anyway.
Yeah. We're going to keep all this in now. I mean, until we actually press the button.
Welcome home.
I feel the need for speed.
Ow!
Charlie, don't surf!
This is fantasy.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Quit griping.
I like griping.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.